Hey guys, it's Claire Aiken, the Fiddle Leaf Fig Girl, and today I want to talk about the 7 characteristics of really good Fiddle Leaf Fig owners. So have you ever noticed how people are just good at some things? Like my mom is amazing at sewing. She could sew a whole dress like using her mind, and I cannot even sew. My husband is the same way with engines. He can build a tractor engine from scratch, but I am not mechanical at all. However, I will say that I am pretty intuitive with plants, and I have kind of a green thumb, and I got that from my grandmother, who was an amazing gardener. She grew roses. She had one of the first fiddle leaf figs in the 1970s, and she was just had the greenest thumb that I've ever seen. And so I think sometimes it skips a generation, and I think it's something that you can also develop within yourself. So if you think you don't have a green thumb, take note of some of these characteristics and try to develop them within yourself to get better at growing houseplants. So I think the first characteristic is that people with a really green thumb are sort of empathetic in nature, and they notice things. They're sensitive to things and people and even animals. So in the same way that you should check on your plant once a week to kind of see how it's doing, you also may be the type of person that will notice if a dog is thirsty and you would, automatically be compelled to get it water. Or if you see a toddler having a meltdown, you think that kid's hungry and it needs a snack. You notice things about people and the way that people are behaving and the way that people and animals are feeling, and the same is true for plants. You see that a plant looks droopy, or it looks thirsty, or it looks unhappy, or it looks like it's not getting enough light. And I definitely see that all the time when I go into people's homes and I see a suffering plant. I want to move it, or I want to fertilize it, or I want to prune it, and I have to sometimes resist those urges. The second characteristic is you're probably very interested and curious about plants, and so you learn. Maybe you watch videos, maybe you watch webinars, maybe you read books about plants. I think that's one of the best ways to learn, is just to feed your curiosity and learn about as many different, strategies for growing plants, different types of plants. I really think that outdoor gardening helps with indoor gardening and vice versa. Going to different botanical gardens. When you go to a hotel, take note of the type of plants that are growing there and how they're growing and what does the soil look like and what does the irrigation look like. Just being curious and learning really helps to inform your own habits in your indoor collection. The third characteristic is using the right tools. Now, I think that it's kind of a shame that so many beginner Fiddle Leaf Fig owners are unsuccessful because they use the wrong soil. If you get a typical indoor houseplant soil that holds a lot of water, your plant is going to get root rot and it's going to die. And so that's why we created our Fiddle Leaf Fig soil, because it's super fast draining and it makes it easier to be successful with your plant. So I really recommend getting the right tools. Get a soil meter so you can tell how wet your soil is. Use the right fertilizer. Use a houseplant multivitamin. Make sure that you are getting your plant enough light and that you're, caring for it in a way that it needs so that it makes you more likely to be successful. Okay, so characteristic number 4 is something that I struggle with, and that's patience. The thing with these plants is they don't respond overnight to anything. So whether you're correcting a problem or whether you're trying to get new growth, or maybe you're trying to get your plant to branch with a technique called notching, it takes time. It takes weeks. If you're trying to propagate your fiddle leaf fig, it can take 4 to 8 weeks to get new cuttings to root. And so it's something that causes us to practice patience. But the more that you can be patient and the more that you can notice what you did a few weeks ago that's causing your plant to respond in the way it's responding right now, that's really important for being successful with your plants. All right, characteristic number 5 is resisting the urge to overwater. And this is just something that, if you have sort of an impulsive characteristic in you, sometimes, your impulse, if your plant is suffering, is to overwater it. Plants need water, and the only action that we can take is to water them to try to make them better. And I think that's why so many people drown their fiddle leaf figs, is they want to do something and they don't know what else to do. So resisting the temptation to water before your plant is really fully dried out between waterings can be very challenging, and it can be a little bit uncomfortable. And so I recommend using a soil meter to know really how wet your soil is, and to just err on the side of letting your plant dry out too much before you overwater. You could do a lot more damage with watering too soon than waiting too long. Characteristic number 6, I think, is surrendering control. You can't make your plant grow, you can't make your plant branch, you can't make your plant be healthy. And so you have to do your best and control what you can, and then just let go of the rest and kind of hope for the best. I think there's a lot you can do with having positive intentions towards your plant, by being loving towards your plant, by naming your plant, talking to your plant. Those things are proven to work. But at the end of the day, you know, your plant is its own organism and there's nothing that you can force it to do. And so having the grace to allow your plant to be its own being and stepping back and accepting what your plant does is part of being a successful houseplant owner. And I will say this characteristic is also, I think, what makes a good parent is you can't control your kids. You can give them the things that they need. You can try to set them up for success. You can tell them what you think is a good idea, but you can't force them to do anything. And so I think if you're able to surrender that control with your kids, it's also a good skill that you can learn with your plants. And the last characteristic that I notice with really good plant owners is not being afraid of failure. You know, you may think that professional houseplant people or people with tons of plants or with a really green thumb that they never fail, that they never have dead plants, and that's just not true. Maybe they're not posting their dead plants on Instagram, but I will tell you, I walked through my collection this morning and there were 2 that were completely dead that I threw in the trash. And it just happens, maybe it's a bad plant, maybe it's a plant that I'm not good at caring for. There's certain things that I do well. I do monsteras and fiddle leaf figs and kind of the drier plants really well. If you give me a maidenhair fern, I will kill it. It just is what it is. And so that doesn't mean that I don't keep trying and that I don't keep learning, but I don't take it personally when I fail with my houseplants. I throw it away and I get a new one, and I compare it to if I had bought cut flowers, I'd be throwing them away at the end of the week anyway. And so if I wasted $10 on a plant and it didn't survive, oh well. And so I think giving yourself that grace to fail and not letting it affect your confidence in growing your plants and in life is really important. So I hope this video was helpful. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and please share in the comments your characteristics of what you think makes a really good plant owner. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.